I'd been pastoring a small church in a small rural community, Freeport, Illinois, before we came down to Seacoast. And in February of 1988, about 65 of us met in an apartment clubhouse in Mount Pleasant, and that was the beginning of Seacoast Church. When Seacoast started, I had a vision for the sort of church that I thought God was leading us to plant, but I had no idea where it would lead. People say, did you ever dream that it would be like this? Well, really, no.
I remember talking to you on the day that I got the shoulder tap to step into the leadership here at Seacoast Church.
Yeah, that was a wild day. In fact, I remember we were in the driveway and we were sitting on the hood of the car. That's, where all important conversations happen.
Yeah, and honestly, I wasn't sure how I felt about leading Seacoast Church. And actually, I was sure how I felt. I didn't think it was a good idea. We didn't start this place. We hoped this place would outlive us. And sometimes I believe my title should be interim pastor because my part here I know is temporary, and we want to steward it well and one day hand it off to the next generation.
And it's what Seacoast is, it's bigger than us and the team. It really is about what God wants to do here and in every community where Seacoast Church calls home. It's been that way since the very beginning.
I knew I wanted Seacoast to be a church anybody could call home. I especially wanted it to be a place where non-believers were encouraged to check Christianity out at their own pace. I've always been the kind of guy who asks a lot of questions, and being able to do that without feeling shut down or shut out is important to me. Being a church where people could explore and wrestle meant that we needed to share the gospel in a language that made sense to them. And it also meant showing them that faith had a real practical place in their life. So we started making phone calls. I'm talking about a lot of phone calls. I think we called about 16,000 people. And we asked them, do you attend church? And if they said yes, we said, keep going. If they said no, we said, why do you think people don't attend church? And we engaged them in a conversation. Some people think being seeker sensitive means giving people what they want, but that isn't what it means at all. Being seeker sensitive just means understanding that there are a lot of people who would choose faith if they could experience it in an accessible way. And so from the beginning, Seacoast has been full of people who found faith for the first time. And people who came back to church after walking away from faith that might have been a part of their life but never really changed their life. In early 2002, I think, we had a problem. We'd grown too big for our building. We were doing so many services on the weekend that we were all exhausted, and it just wasn't sustainable. So we decided to expand. The problem was we couldn't get the town to approve what we thought we needed. We had to get creative. I'd like to say that innovation is just desperation in a prettier package. And let me tell you, we were desperate. We rented a nearby location, offered services that had live worship and a pre-recorded message, and we had no idea if it was going to work. I guess it worked because we've been doing it ever since. We were one of the first churches to make multi-site a core part of our strategy, and today we have 13 physical locations. We probably have more by the time you watch this. You guys behind the camera just use AI and edit me to say the right number every time we add one, right? I think it was about 2006. I was in a very spiritually dry season. We'd been running hard for so long, and I was just feeling empty. And during that season, I had the opportunity to travel a bit and reconnected with God through some worship practices that go back almost to the beginning of Christianity. And it was in those moments really of responding to God and what he was saying to me, I knew I had to bring this back to Seacoast somehow. And that's where response time came from. See, response time is maybe the thing about Seacoast that other pastors and churches ask me about the most. When people experience it for the first time, it really is a profound moment.
It's funny, it kind of catches people off guard the first time they experience it.
Yeah, if it's your first time at Seacoast, it can feel a little strange when the service isn't over, but everybody in the worship center stands up and starts moving around. But once response time becomes a part of your worship experience, you kind of can't imagine having church without it.
Like Dad said a minute ago, at the heart of response time are two questions. What's God saying to me, and what am I going to do about it? We never want this to be a place where people come and hear great music and a practical message, but leave unchanged. And so response time is about taking that next step, doing something with what God has been saying to you during the service. You know, being a multi-site church isn't just about having a bunch of locations. We want Seacoast to make a difference in every community where we call home. In the early 2000s, North Charleston was nationally ranked as one of the most dangerous cities in the country per capita. We decided to put down roots in North Charleston and open up the Dream Center in 2007.
The Dream Center offers emergency food assistance, clothing, free medical care, high school mentoring, neighborhood outreach programs, and more. As we've partnered with the North Charleston community, we've seen crime fall more than 75% in areas where the Dream Center Adopt-A-Block program is active. Our E3 mentoring program has helped to dramatically improve the high school graduation rate.
We could sit here and share numbers of how many people have been through our clinic or how much food we give away on Thanksgiving, but what matters is that behind every number is a person, a story of someone who needed the gospel to show up in their life in a real, tangible way. And that's the heart of the Dream Center in our North Charleston campus, and that's the heart of Seacoast.
Fast forward to 2015, and we have another problem.
A good problem.
A good problem, but still a problem. It was also the same problem we had before. We were once again completely out of room at our Mount Pleasant campus.
Thankfully, no building drama this time, though.
No drama. We were able to expand and build a really amazing new worship center that we moved into on Easter 2019. But we didn't get to enjoy it for very long because, of course, COVID showed up early 2020, and suddenly we had to figure out how to do church in a totally different way.
Yeah, and I hope we never have another season like that, but God did some incredible things through it. We've heard so many stories of people who found us online during COVID, some of who ended up moving across the country to Charleston just to be a part of what God is doing here. We want Seacoast to be a place that ministers to people in pain. The mental health crisis in our nation is just staggering. And we were brainstorming, how can we do missions here in Mount Pleasant, where it seems like people have everything that they want, but we realized that the mental health, the addiction, that stuff is almost at a pandemic level. And it makes me think about the counseling center at Seacoast Church, which we opened in the fall of 2023. The first year of our counseling center, our counselors had over 5,500 appointments, which was almost double what we thought was possible. Now we're looking at expanding the center to as many campuses as possible over the next several years. So did we cover it all?
There's no way. I feel like there's so much we haven't talked about, but it would take hours to tell you the stories of each of our campuses or what God does every summer through our children's ministry at kids camp or at our student summer camp.
Yeah, we talked about the Dream Center, but we've got incredible local missions efforts at all of our campuses, including a warming center that opens up when the temperatures get below 33 degrees at our Somerville campus, or even our Asheville campus, who became ground zero of disaster relief after Hurricane Helene hit that area.
We didn't talk about Chosen, our women's conference, which just gets better and better every year as we see God move into the lives of thousands of women.
Yeah, there's our missions teams, which serve people here in the community, but also all around the world as we work with our amazing global partners.
We have incredible ministries and small groups for everyone in every season of life. One of my favorite things is to see people get plugged into our dream team.
That's what we call our volunteers, by the way.
They're the absolute best. At Seacoast Church, our mission is to help people find God, grow in their faith, discover their purpose, and make a difference.
It's been that way from the very beginning, and we cannot wait to see what God has in store for Seacoast and for you.